Ethan Cole arrived at the Orion Motors headquarters with grease still under his fingernails and a 3-year-old asleep on his shoulder. The receptionist stared at him like he had wandered into the wrong building by mistake. Maybe it was the worn denim jacket. Maybe it was the exhaustion carved into his face after another night fixing engines in a freezing garage just to keep the lights on. Or maybe it was because billionaires didn't usually invite men like him upstairs. But Ethan wasn't there to ask for money. He was there because he had built something impossible. The prototype sat in the underground parking garage beneath the tower, hidden under a gray tarp. A car engine so efficient it could cut fuel costs in half without sacrificing speed. A design nobody in the industry had solved in decades. Ethan had spent 6 years building it alone after his wife died in a hospital hallway because they couldn't afford experimental treatment in time. That night changed him forever. While other men slept, Ethan studied engines. While his son slept beside him on a mattress in the garage office, Ethan rewrote airflow systems and redesigned thermal compression structures from scratch. Every dollar went into metal, software, and failed experiments. He skipped meals so he could buy parts. He sold his wedding ring to pay for patent filing fees. And somehow, against every odds imaginable, he succeeded. But success attracts wolves. Damien Vale was waiting on the 43rd floor. The billionaire CEO of Orion Motors was famous for smiling while destroying competitors. Magazine covers called him a genius. Investors called him untouchable. Employees called him the shark behind closed doors because entire companies vanished after negotiating with him. Damien greeted Ethan with a polished smile and an expensive handshake. "You built this alone?" he asked casually after reviewing the blueprints. Ethan nodded carefully. "Every bolt." Damien leaned back in his chair slowly, studying him like a predator measuring distance. "And you're asking for partnership?" "I'm asking for manufacturing support," Ethan corrected. "You help produce it. We both profit." Damien smiled wider. That smile should have warned him. 3 weeks later, Ethan received an email that changed everything. Orion Motors had rejected the deal. No explanation. No follow-up. Nothing. Ethan felt crushed, but not surprised. Men like Damien Vale didn't gamble on unknown mechanics from broken neighborhoods. So Ethan returned to his garage and kept working, hoping another company might listen. Then came the press conference. The entire world watched Damien Vale step onto a glowing stage in New York beside a sleek silver prototype called the Orion X9. Damien raised his arms proudly. "This," he announced, "is the future of automotive engineering." Ethan stopped breathing. The engine displayed behind Damien was his. Not similar. Not inspired. His. Every curve. Every chamber angle. Every airflow pathway. Even the tiny compression flaw Ethan accidentally left in version 17 was still there. His knees nearly collapsed. His son Noah looked up from the garage floor. "Daddy?" Ethan couldn't answer. The room spun around him while millions of viewers applauded the billionaire stealing 6 years of his life in real time. And the worst part? Damien had already filed global patents under Orion Motors 2 weeks earlier. The world believed the billionaire invented it first. Nobody would ever listen to a broke mechanic over the richest automotive CEO in America. Within days, media outlets celebrated Damien as a visionary. Orion stock exploded upward. Investors poured billions into the company. Television hosts called the X9 the invention of the decade. Meanwhile, Ethan's own patent application mysteriously disappeared from processing. Every lawyer he contacted refused the case after hearing Orion's name. Some literally stopped answering mid-conversation. One finally admitted the truth quietly. "You can't beat Damien Vale," the lawyer whispered. "People who try disappear financially." Ethan hung up and stared at the garage walls in silence. Noah was drawing cars on cardboard nearby. "Did they take your idea?" the little boy asked softly. Ethan swallowed hard. "Yes." Noah looked confused. "Then tell people." Ethan almost laughed at the innocence of that answer. Tell people? Against a billionaire who owned media companies, investors, politicians, and half the industry? Nobody cared about truth. They cared about power. 3 months passed. Bills piled up. The garage nearly shut down twice. Then the threats started. A black SUV began parking across the street every night. Anonymous calls warned Ethan to move on. One night someone smashed every window in his garage while Noah slept in the office. Ethan finally understood. Damien Vale wasn't protecting a product. He was protecting an empire. Because if the world discovered the X9 engine was stolen, Orion Motors would collapse overnight. And Damien would lose billions. Then came the offer. Two men in black suits entered the garage one rainy evening carrying a silver briefcase. Inside was a contract and a check for $10 million. In exchange, Ethan would sign an NDA permanently surrendering all claims to the engine. "Mr. Vale respects talent," one of them said coldly. "This is generosity." Ethan stared at the check. $10 million. Enough to change Noah's life forever. Enough to leave the country. Enough to erase every struggle they'd ever known. But then he looked at his son sleeping under a thin blanket beside the office heater. And something inside him hardened. "Tell Damien," Ethan said quietly, "to go to hell." The men exchanged glances. "You're making a mistake." "No," Ethan replied. He did. The threats escalated after that. The city suddenly declared Ethan's garage unsafe. His business license vanished in processing. Suppliers stopped returning calls. Bank accounts froze for investigation. Damien wasn't just attacking him. He was erasing him. Then came the fire. Ethan woke at 2:13 a.m. to Noah screaming. Flames swallowed the back half of the garage. Smoke poured through the ceiling while metal exploded in the darkness. Ethan grabbed Noah and ran barefoot into the freezing rain as firefighters arrived. The prototype burned for hours. By sunrise, 6 years of work was ash. The fire department called it electrical failure. Ethan knew better. And standing across the street beside a black umbrella was Damien Vale himself. Watching. Smiling faintly. Ethan nearly charged him right there. But Noah grabbed his hand tightly. "Dad?" Ethan looked down at his terrified son and stopped himself. That was the moment Damien won. Because Ethan had nothing left. No prototype. No money. No proof. Nothing except rage. For weeks he disappeared from public view entirely. People assumed he gave up. Damien certainly did. What the billionaire didn't know was that Ethan had prepared for betrayal long before Orion Motors ever contacted him. Because men who spend years struggling alone learn one important lesson. Never keep only one copy of your future. Deep inside an old storage unit outside the city sat a rusted toolbox hidden beneath scrap metal. Inside was a hard drive. And on that drive was everything. Every blueprint. Every timestamped design log. Every development video dating back 6 years. Including one critical file Ethan had forgotten existed. A recorded Zoom call. Damien Vale himself reviewing Ethan's engine months before Orion filed patents. The date stamp was undeniable. The billionaire had seen the design first. Which meant Orion's entire patent claim was fraudulent. Ethan stared at the screen in disbelief. This single file could destroy a billion-dollar empire. But exposing Damien publicly required something bigger than evidence. It required attention. Because powerful men bury truth every day. Unless the world is watching. So Ethan made a desperate decision. He uploaded the video online. No fancy editing. No dramatic music. Just raw footage. Damien Vale studying Ethan's blueprints while saying one fatal sentence. "This technology could make us billions." At first, almost nobody noticed. The video gained 17 views in 12 hours. Then one automotive blogger shared it. Then another. By morning, hashtags exploded across social media. Hashtag Orion stole it. Hashtag Justice for Ethan. Hashtag Damien Vale exposed. The internet moved like wildfire. People compared Ethan's old garage photos to Orion's engine reveals. Engineers analyzed timestamps. Former Orion employees began leaking anonymous stories about internal panic before the X9 launch. And then the bombshell arrived. A former Orion software engineer publicly released internal company emails. One message from Damien himself read, "Delay Ethan Cole's patent processing until acquisition is finalized." The world erupted. News stations interrupted broadcasts. Investors panicked. Orion stock crashed 31% in a single afternoon. Damien Vale denied everything publicly, of course. He called Ethan a disgruntled scam artist seeking attention. But then another leak surfaced. Security footage. Damien entering Ethan's garage the week before the fire. The internet became merciless. People dug into every shady acquisition Orion had ever made. Former business partners came forward with stories of intimidation and theft. Politicians demanded investigations. Federal agents appeared outside Orion headquarters. And suddenly the untouchable billionaire looked afraid. Really afraid. Ethan watched the collapse unfold from a tiny rented apartment, while Noah ate cereal beside him. "Are we winning?" Noah asked. Ethan stared at the television silently. Damien Vale was shouting at reporters while security dragged cameras away. For the first time in years, Ethan smiled. "Yeah," he whispered. "I think we are." 3 days later, Damien Vale was arrested for corporate fraud, patent manipulation, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy related to the garage fire investigation. The mugshot spread across the internet within minutes. The billionaire who once controlled entire industries now stood in handcuffs wearing a prison uniform. But the final twist came during the federal investigation. Authorities discovered Orion Motors never intended to mass-produce Ethan's engines safely. Internal reports revealed catastrophic overheating risks Damien concealed from investors to inflate company valuation before selling shares. Meaning the stolen design wasn't just theft. It was unfinished. Damien had rushed it to market without Ethan's final safety modifications. If production had continued, thousands of vehicles could have exploded under high heat conditions. The revelation shocked the world. Ethan hadn't just exposed corruption. He had accidentally prevented a disaster. Within weeks, Orion Motors collapsed entirely. Executives resigned. Factories shut down. Damien's net worth vanished almost overnight as lawsuits flooded the company from every direction. And the man once mocked as a broke garage mechanic became the most trusted engineer in America. But the moment that mattered most didn't happen in court. Or on television. Or online. It happened 6 months later in a quiet parking lot outside a rebuilt workshop. Ethan stood beside a brand new sign reading Cole Advanced Motors while Noah kicked a soccer ball nearby. A black SUV slowly pulled into the lot. Ethan froze instantly. Damien Vale stepped out wearing plain clothes instead of designer suits. Prison had hollowed him out. His confidence looked cracked now, like glass after impact. The two men stared at each other silently. "You ruined my life," Damien said at last. Ethan almost laughed. "You stole mine first." Damien looked away briefly before speaking again. "You know what bothers me most?" Ethan said nothing. "I could have bought your loyalty," Damien muttered bitterly. "You were desperate." Ethan glanced toward Noah. "Yeah," he admitted quietly. "That's why you lost." Damien followed his gaze. The little boy waved innocently. For a moment the billionaire looked confused by something he couldn't understand. Then Ethan realized the truth. Men like Damien spent so long worshipping money that they forgot some people still value things money can't buy. Respect. Truth. Legacy. Love. Damien finally turned back toward his SUV. "You think they'll remember you?" he asked coldly. Ethan looked around his rebuilt garage. Young engineers worked inside laughing while building safer prototypes based on his original designs. Families of former Orion employees now had jobs there. Investors who once ignored him now begged for partnerships. But Ethan's eyes stayed on Noah. "My son will," he said. Damien said nothing after that. He climbed into the SUV and disappeared forever. 2 years later, Ethan Cole unveiled the first fully safe production model of his revolutionary engine before a global audience. But this time the stage belonged to him. And before starting the presentation, he told the crowd something no billionaire would ever understand. "The most dangerous thing in the world," Ethan said calmly, "is a powerful man who believes poor people can be erased." Then he started the engine. And the entire world stood up applauding.